The sea was calm that morning. Not the kind of calm that feels dramatic or cinematic, just ordinary. A flat horizon, low wind, long, slow waves rolling without urgency. On the bridge of a U.S. Navy destroyer, the watch team moved through routine checks. Radar returns scrolled steadily, engine noise hummed at a constant pitch. Nothing demanded attention. In the distance, the ocean looked empty. It usually did. Far above, a military satellite passed silently overhead, its sensors sweeping a wide stretch of water that had not changed in decades. Shipping lanes, patrol routes, familiar patterns. Another normal day in an already crowded world. Then, a signal appeared. It was small, brief, almost ignorable. A radar contact that didn't behave the way it should have. Not hostile, not threatening, just wrong. A return that lingered too long, then faded, then reappeared at a slightly different bearing. The officer of the deck glanced at the display and said nothing. No alarms sounded, no voices rose. The sea remained quiet. But somewhere, deep in the ship's systems, data began accumulating. Tiny fragments of information that together suggested movement. Something was approaching. At first, it felt insignificant. 4 warships operating far from home waters, moving in loose formation. Their transponders were off, their courses slightly erratic. Not a direct approach, but not accidental either. They stayed just outside what international law clearly defines as provocation. Just close enough to be noticed. In military operations, that distance matters. Because in modern naval warfare, nothing truly begins with a shot. It begins with presence. The region had been tense for months, though few outside defense circles were paying attention. Officially, there was no crisis. Trade routes were open, diplomats spoke in carefully neutral language, markets barely reacted. But beneath the surface, pressure had been building. The country behind those 4 warships was struggling. Years of economic decline had hollowed out its institutions. Inflation had eaten away at salaries. Military budgets looked large on paper, but spare parts were scarce, training hours cut, morale stretched thin. The leadership knew this. They also knew something else. Power, once lost, is difficult to reclaim quietly. For years, their influence had shrunk while others expanded. Foreign navies sailed near their coasts with growing frequency. Surveillance aircraft flew patterns that mapped every radar site, every response time, every hesitation. Each pass was legal, each move defensible, but together they sent a message: you are being watched. Inside the capital, that message landed hard. The leadership faced internal pressure from multiple directions: economic unrest, elite rivalries, a public narrative built on strength that no longer matched reality. Backing down was not an option. Silence felt like surrender. They needed an incident. Not a war, not a direct confrontation, just something symbolic, something that could be framed as resistance. 4 warships were dispatched. They were not the most advanced vessels in the fleet, but they were available, armed, crewed by sailors who understood the importance of the mission, not tactically, but politically. Their orders were carefully phrased: approach, observe, challenge presence, avoid escalation. In other words, cross the line without admitting it. As the formation moved closer, U.S. naval sensors tracked every change in speed and heading. The Aegis combat system aboard the destroyer integrated radar, electronic signals, satellite data, and intelligence feeds into a single operational picture. Nothing was hidden. Every radar sweep, every engine fluctuation, every course correction. On a large display inside the Combat Information Center, 4 symbols advanced slowly across a digital ocean: blue for friendly, red for unknown, yellow for ambiguous. They stayed yellow. Rules of engagement were clear: no hostile intent, no hostile act, maintain distance, maintain professionalism. But professionalism doesn't remove tension, it concentrates it. As the gap closed, communications attempts were made on international maritime frequencies. Standard phrases, calm voices, clear instructions. No response. The silence was deliberate. Silence is a tactic. It forces interpretation. It invites assumption. It shifts psychological pressure onto the other side. Because if you speak, you reveal intent. If you remain silent, you let the other side imagine it. The 4 warships altered course slightly, angling closer. Not enough to justify action, enough to force recalculation. On the bridge, posture changed. Not visibly, but internally. Attention sharpened, conversations shortened, eyes stayed on displays a fraction longer. This was no longer routine. Still, nothing happened. Above the formation, unseen by the naked eye, ISR platforms were already active. High-altitude drones monitored movement patterns, signals intelligence units listened for emissions, radar pulses, communications bursts, electronic signatures. The opposing warships began emitting intermittent radar sweeps, not continuous tracking, just enough to say, "We see you." That mattered, because radar illumination, even brief, is a message. It tells you a system is active, that tating data could be refined if needed, that someone is thinking several steps ahead. The Aegis system registered the emissions instantly, categorizing frequency, power, and mode. The information flowed into threat libraries, cross-referenced against known capabilities. Nothing escalated, but nothing relaxed either. This was gray zone warfare, a space between peace and conflict where actions remained deniable, reversible, and politically exploitable. In that space, mistakes are most dangerous. The 4 warships tightened formation. One moved slightly ahead, acting as a lead. Another drifted wide, testing reaction time. U.S. ships responded with minimal maneuvering, just enough to maintain safe distance, just enough to avoid collision, just enough to signal control. No warnings, no threats. Restraint is not weakness, it is discipline. Behind the scenes, decision-makers watched closely. In command centers far from the ocean, analysts assessed risk. What did the other side want? A reaction? A headline? A miscalculation they could blame on? The answer was unclear, and uncertainty is fuel for escalation. Electronic warfare systems aboard both sides quietly powered up. Not jamming, not yet, just readiness. Receivers scanned the spectrum. Algorithms searched for anomalies. Modern naval warfare is invisible until it isn't. The 4 warships executed a coordinated maneuver, cutting across the projected path of a U.S. vessel. Close, but still legal. Aggressive, but not overtly hostile. It was the kind of move that forces a decision without forcing a response. The bridge remained calm, course adjusted, speed altered, collision avoided. No radio call followed. The silence stretched. International media began noticing unusual naval activity. Satellite images circulated, analysts speculated. Headlines remained cautious. Heightened tensions, they said. Not crisis, not confrontation. Yet. Inside the originating country, state media framed the operation differently. Footage of the warships aired repeatedly. Narrators spoke of sovereignty, dignity, resistance against foreign encroachment. The message was internal. We still matter. But the leadership also understood the danger. Push too far, and symbolism becomes reality. An accident, a misread signal, a panicked response. No one wanted that. The presence of the U.S. Navy was overwhelming, even without visible force. Carrier strike groups operated beyond the horizon. Submarines, silent and unseen, tracked every movement. The power imbalance was absolute, and everyone knew it. That imbalance was the point. Modern deterrence isn't about displays of aggression, it's about making escalation irrational. As hours passed, the 4 warships maintained proximity but avoided further provocation. Their radar emissions ceased, their formation loosened. The message had been sent. We are here. The response had been received. We see you. Gradually, almost imperceptibly, distance increased. Courses diverged. Speed normalized. No announcement marked the moment, no declaration ended the standoff. It simply faded. By the next day, the ocean looked the same as it always had, calm, empty, unchanged. But something had shifted. Analysts would later describe the encounter as a test, a probe, a calculated risk taken under pressure. They would debate who gained more from the exchange, but the truth was quieter. Nothing happened, and that was the point. Because in modern geopolitics, the most dangerous confrontations are the ones that don't explode, the ones that resolve in silence, leaving no ruins, no memorials, no clear winners. Only data, only memory, only the knowledge that next time the margin for error may be thinner. The war that almost happened leaves no scars on the sea, but it leaves lessons, and those lessons